There's a lot of differences in your life between being a child and being an adult. So many differences. One of those differences that I want to talk about today is the amount of control you have over the people in your life. As most of us remember, being a child is very freeing because you don't have a lot of responsibility, but at the same time, it's very restrictive and um, actually lacks a lot of certain freedoms, right? You can't drive, you can't, your parents are kind of keeping track of where you're going. You don't go past the end of the block, kind of a thing. Another big thing that you cannot control when you're a kid, for the most part, what you can't control is the people in your life, right? Can't control who your parents are, can't control who your siblings are. Lots of times we can't even control who our school teacher is or any other authority figure. My son, for example, my younger son, he doesn't like his teacher. He's in second grade, and we're not going to move him. We have told him, we're not moving you to another class because we personally don't see anything wrong with her. She just rubs him wrong a little bit. She rubs him the wrong way, but she's just kind of stern and strict. We don't, he says that she's mean, right? She's mean to me. She's not mean. She's just strict, And so we're kind of like, well, that's good for him, So we're not relenting. We're letting her stay in his life for the rest of the year, and he just started last month, so he's got a long way to go. But anyway, when you're older, when you're an adult, you have quite a bit of control over who you let into your life and who you don't, right? You're dating somebody, they drive you nuts, you break up with them. You're married to somebody, they drive you nuts, you get a divorce. You work for somebody, you can't stand them, what do? You quit your job sometimes, or you request, hey, can I work for this person instead of this person? And if your company says no, maybe you quit. In fact, they say the number one reason people quit jobs is because of their boss. It's not because of the work, it's not because of the pay, it's because of their boss. Now, I'm not saying those other reasons don't exist, but the number one reason that people quit their jobs is they're quitting their boss. They're not actually quitting their job, they're quitting their boss. So I find it interesting. But what I want to talk about is difficult people and sort of where I'm at with caring, caring about difficult people, caring about what difficult people think, what they do. And as some of you might recall, some of you that have been following me for a while know that there's a member of my family who is, well, there's more than one, but this person in particular is extraordinarily difficult, caused a lot of problems. I'm not saying I'm completely innocent. I'm not. But her and I we are like oil and water, man. We do not mix well at all. I would say that almost every single parenting decision she's ever made in her entire life, I just sit back and awe and just look at, like, how can you be such a horrible parent? But they're her kids, so I let her raise her kids how she wants to raise them, but I don't agree with anything that comes out of her mouth, whether it's political or otherwise. She's just straight up mean. She's selfish. She's a victim. She's extremely rude. She's got a very small town sort of mentality, She basically teaches high school at the high school that she went to. She never left her hometown. Let's put it that way. She's never been anywhere, never done anything as far as I'm concerned. She has the most narrow horizons I've ever met in an individual. Someone who is going to die in the same town they were born in. And is perfectly happy to do that. Very low self-monitoring, if you know what I mean by that. Like, some people monitor their behavior and they're very socially conscious, like, if I say this will piss this person off, or that'll be inappropriate if I do this, this, and this, or if I say this or whatever. And then you have other people who don't monitor their behavior, and they just, it results in not having a filter. So If it pops into your head, it comes out your mouth. You know, if you think somebody is an asshole, it just comes out of your mouth. You're like, you're an asshole or whatever. Um, that's her. That's her. So anyway, I have been trying, and I think I'm not going to try anymore. I've been trying to extend the olive branch to this person because her and I got in a big, you know, big confrontation. And the way that she deals with confrontation is probably the most unhealthy way possible. But her and I got in a confrontation before we moved to Arizona. And now I figured, you know, it's more than 2 years after the case, and I figured that the dust would have settled by now. And my wife just went back there to be around this individual, and she was just as rude as ever. She's the kind of person who she's extremely vindictive. So not all, like, it's not good enough that she hates you. She has to talk as much shit about you as she possibly can to everybody she knows, so that she can get as many people on board with hating you as possible. So she tries to turn her parents against you, her friends against you, other family members against you. She definitely turns her kids against you. And she did the same thing with her ex-husband, you know. She turned her children against her ex-husband. Like, he's not there to defend himself, so she just talks shit about him all day long, how lazy he is, how stupid he is, how careless he is, how this and that. And he's not there to defend himself. So it's pretty easy to win an argument when the defendant isn't present in the courtroom, right? When the defendant can't even take the stand if he wants to. It's a straw man. You know, you set up a straw man and you tear it down. But trying to discuss logical fallacies with her would be like, you know, trying to discuss trigonometry with a toddler, basically. You know, it's way above her pay grade. You know, she's just stuck in her little narrow-minded thinking in black and white. And what's amazing about her is that nothing is her fault. Nothing. Which I know that deep down, because everybody has this, deep down she is worried that some of it's her fault, but she has a complete inability to face anything that is her fault. So instead of facing, well, I might have done this wrong, I might have said this wrong, I might have done that wrong, this wrong, whatever. Instead of facing that, looking in the mirror and saying, you know what, maybe I have something to apologize for, she chooses to just basically stick her middle finger up at everybody who doesn't 100% agree with her and take her side. And I have unequivocally apologized for my part. And I can't tell you how difficult it is to sincerely apologize to someone. And some of you may have experienced this. To sincerely apologize, humble yourself and sincerely apologize, and have the other person turn around and say, I don't accept your apology. F you. Like, so not only do I not accept your apology, but I have nothing to apologize for. I did everything perfectly. I would do it again the exact same way. That's how justified I am in my behavior. This incredulently self-righteous attitude. I can't even bear it anymore. And I don't even usually think about this chick that often, except that my wife just visited out there and came back and told me about it. And that's why it's fresh on my mind. Part of me really regrets apologizing to her, because now it's almost like I feel like I gave her the power. You know, I put the power in her hands, and it's almost like she feels like, oh, okay, Shafe apologized to me, so he admitted he was wrong. Now I got him right where I want him. Now I'm gonna, you know, it's almost like she sees it like a wrestling match. You know, like she's pinned me. But you know, the bottom line is that she has so much to apologize for. with the things that she said and done, and her just general attitude, she has a ton of things to apologize for. But I didn't want my apology to have strings attached and say, well, I apologize for my part, as long as you apologize for your part. Like, you really can't do that. You can't do that and have it be a sincere apology. The only way that you can sincerely apologize is to just not bring up anything the other person did and just say, you know what, my part, the way I said the things that I said, what I did, I'm sorry. You know, I wish that it wouldn't have gotten so heated, and I wish that I would have handled it differently. And with a large percentage of adults, I believe, at least it's been my experience, that when you humble yourself like that, a lot of people are humbled themselves when they're in the presence of humility, and they go, you know what, now that you put it that way, okay, yeah, let's try to make amends. But not her. Not her. And that's what makes her particularly evil, in my opinion. Particularly evil. Someone who is hell-bent on hatred, full of unforgiveness, self-righteous, and someone who basically, you can't help but think that if I got in a car accident tomorrow and died, that a smile would come to her face. That's the kind of disdain that she feels for me. And it's unjustified. I mean, it's so misdirected, because the biggest thing that she hates about me, folks, is that I pointed out something that she did wrong. Is that I exposed her, and I basically told her that, you know, she was acting irrationally. And, you know, you can't tell an irrational person that they're acting irrationally, just like you can't tell a woman who's upset to calm down. It's true that they need to calm down, but that's the last thing they need to hear. It's true that an irrational woman is irrational, but unfortunately, because she's irrational, she can't accept the words, you are being irrational. And I just got tired of treating her like a child, because a child requires that you constantly use a backdoor, and you constantly use like reverse psychology, and you have to make everything seem like it was their idea when it was really your idea. You know, I've got a 7-year-old boy who suffers from that. It's the boy who doesn't like his teacher. We have to sort of coerce him, you know, and promise him, like, if you do this, we'll give you a prize at the end of the week. And he gets to mark off his little, he got a gold star for this, you know, he's got this little chart with smiley faces and sad faces on him, and that's how he gets through these problems. But you don't expect that with a 45-year-old woman. You just don't, nor do you have the patience to deal with that with a 45-year-old woman. When you deal with somebody who is supposed to be a fully grown, mature adult, who just isn't there, who had her growth completely stunted. Oh, I'm not even kidding you when I tell you that she acts like a 10-year-old in a 45-year-old woman's body. I mean, probably even less than a 10-year-old, probably like an 8 or a 9-year-old. I hate to say it. And that makes her very dangerous. But what do you do with that? What do you do with someone who is so far gone? I find that I have to stop caring. I don't care about her, or I'm trying not to care about her. But the other problem is all of the waves that she's creating in the family, that she's talking shit about me to her kids and to her father and to whoever else will listen to her. You know, she's just, you know, Shafe is this and Shafe is that. You know, she can't let it go, and you know, just berating me. And, you know, she's doing the same exact thing that she does, that she's been doing to her ex-husband ever since they got a divorce, you know? And what is that? That's the easiest thing to possibly do. The hard thing is to have a conversation with Shafe. The easy thing to do is to bash Shafe while he's not around. And so, you know, I'm not trying to necessarily make myself out to be some saint, but I do deserve some credit for reaching out to her and trying to extend the olive branch. I do deserve some credit for that. To try to start a dialogue, and for her to basically slap the olive branch away from me and basically, tell me fuck you or whatever. Um, and, the hardest part of it is that it's affecting relationships in the family. If we could just take her and put her in some capsule and shoot her off into outer space where she couldn't cause any more problems, then it would be easy to get rid of her and to forget about her. But to have somebody out there who hates your guts and who's constantly stirring up shit and constantly talking smack about you, who knows? I mean, she could be telling straight out blatant lies about me. I honestly don't know. But again, I haven't thought about this woman in a long time, but my wife just went out to visit her and just kind of drudged some old things up for me, and her kids, her kids are just like, they won't talk to me. You're right. Cause I'm persona non grata, and unfortunately her kids are still young enough to where they think that their mother is flawless. None of her thoughts are wrong. None of her actions are wrong. None of her instincts are wrong. Well, the problem is that they're in for an extremely rude awakening when they grow up into adults, and they look back and they think about all the things that their mother said and did, and all the things that she should have done that she didn't do. And we all have those sort of self-reflective moments, and we look back at our parents and we like, oh my God, what was my mom thinking? What was my dad thinking to do this or say this or have this attitude? It's like, if they have any healthy amount of self-reflection or intelligence at all, they're going to look back on their mom and just be like, man, it's hard to be raised in an environment with a psychotic individual, because they fill your mind with all kinds of lies, and they really affect the way that you look at the world. Like, if they look at themselves as a victim, they're going to tell you that you're a victim too. Victims raise other victims. Selfish people raise little selfish people. Crazy people raise crazy little people. It's a fact of life. It's very unfortunate. The proximity of the apple from the tree is not that far. And again, it wouldn't be, if they were just some crazy people that lived on this planet that I could just, kick to the curb and never see again, that would be fine. But they're in my family, they're just making waves constantly. And my wife wants to go back and, visit with them and deal with them. And it's just like, it's just hard. It's just hard. Like, I really wish I didn't give a shit. I really wish I could just say I don't give a shit, but I have to admit that I do, to a degree, because they cause damage. She's like a bowling ball. I mean, she's a fucking bull in a china shop. That girl, and it's all about her and her feelings. It's all about her and her little feelings that got hurt and continue to get hurt every single day. And she's always been like that, but I wasn't in her crosshairs until recently, like until the past, 3 years. It was always somebody else. It was always her dad, and then it was her ex-husband, and then it was her friend, and then it was my wife at one point. She was like yelling and screaming at my wife because my wife, didn't invite her out with her friends, and she thought that my wife should have invited her. Like, it was just ridiculous. But now it's me, But, you have to have a scapegoat. You have to have an enemy. You have to have somebody to hate. And, I'm that person now. I'm not the only person in her life that, she still hates her ex-husband. But I'm still one of those people that, she hates. But I am convinced that I did the right thing to reach out to her and try to make amends. I think that was the correct thing to do. It was very hard, and it still is very hard even to think about the fact that I did that, and how she's just like sitting there with her arms folded like a little toddler sitting in her high chair, you know, like, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to deal with. Sorry, this is a rambling video. I'm just venting, really. Yeah, difficult people suck.